purpose of this space is to create a very safe environment for people to share a moment of their lives. All the stories presented by the speakers are personal in nature, and some of them can encroach on dark topics as addiction, abuse, self-harm, and you may be triggered by this. And if you are triggered by it, there's a beautiful lounge in the back. You can go there, give yourself a timeout, ground yourself, and then when you're ready, you can come back and join us.
Centrally located in the Richmond Auto Mall since 1984, Richmond Honda features a large selection of Honda certified pre-owned vehicles. Inside the showroom, Honda's newest models are displayed for viewing, and the dealership is staffed 7 days a week for financial consultation. Foodie World presents Philippine Street, featuring a large selection of Filipino foods, from imported non-perishable products to both packaged seafood and locally caught and very much alive. Foodie World is 75,000 square feet of worldly groceries situated in North Richmond. Located 1 block north of St. Paul's Hospital, Downtown Denture Center features complete and partial teeth restoration options. With 35 years experience, Anthony Chung offers mobile services and emergency repair consultation 24 hours a day. Downtown Denture Center, just off Nelson at 970 Burrard in the lobby of the Electra Building.
Matatagpuan sa 104 and 138 na may higit sa 300 sasakyan, brand new and pre-owned, ay pwede niyong pagpipilian. Bago ka pa sa bansa, wala ka pang credit score, walang problema. Marami kaming selection from all makes and models, and all trade-ins are welcome. Higit pang impormasyon sa sirmitsubishi.com.
Welcome. And I would like to open this show by saying, when I grew up, the world was a different place. looking at the crowd, I don't want to say that it was that much different. But as an Asian person growing up in the North Shore, it wasn't very, how am I going to put it? Ethnically accepted. I grew up in a space where it was racist. We were picked on, you were pointed out. And as I thought about this story, I realized the only reason kids actually left me alone is because we owned the corner store. I had access. I had access to something that they wanted. So they couldn't really pick on me all that much because all we had to say is screw off and now you can't buy your candy bar. But with that experience growing up, I didn't really understand what was going on in the world. I lived a pretty sheltered life. It was all work in the store. If you're not working in the store, you're doing mathematics, science, physics, chemistry, all to try and get the highest marks possible to get into university. That was my life. So when I was seeing kids that were different, that had disability, that didn't act a certain way, that were different. I didn't understand what the issue was. I didn't understand why that kid got picked on, and maybe it's because that I was an outcast. I don't want to call an outcast, but an outsider that I had understanding. I'm not going to say compassion because compassion for me came much later in life, but at least I had an understanding of what these kids were going through. And I gravitated to them and tried to befriend them. But moving forward into adulthood, those experiences did definitely warp me. It definitely caused the creation of filters that definitely warped what I thought the world should be. And then I was blessed to be able to host this show and given this mic, because by working with speakers here, I was given a glimpse into worlds that not necessarily didn't exist. I had no access to them. For example, as a straight male, access to the LGBTQ community, just the worlds really didn't cross over. But having speakers from that world allowed me to go have a peek into what that life is like, and then realize that those people are no different than us. They have the same problems, they have the same issues. They feel alone just like we do, or just like I did. Butterflies are gone. So we're gonna go hit, if my life was a DVD, we're gonna skip back a couple of chapters. Forgiveness, we go back a little bit. So I'm in this space of trying to figure out who I am. But at the same time, I don't want to know who I am, and I just go into this, I jumped down the rabbit hole, and I just kept going down, kept numbing it, because I just didn't want to know. Didn't want to know, didn't want to feel, didn't want to do anything. And it got, I got out for about a split second, so in life terms, what, a week? I got out for a week, and then I joined someone else on their path of destruction. And when two people really want to go and harm themselves, there's pretty much nothing that can get in their way. So the two of us, like superheroes, just kind of just dove straight down. And then I went home. It was May 3rd, 2013. I know that day because it was a Friday, which means I was on an all-night bender Thursday night, looked at myself in the mirror, and realized at that one moment that if I didn't stop what I was doing, I was going to die. For the next 5 years, I'm going to die, because the body can't take this. And why was I doing it? I was avoiding everything, and I didn't have anyone to talk to. I didn't want to have anyone that really, I believed, understood. So I just randomly reached out, literally on a prayer, even though I didn't, I don't attribute it or believe in any one particular spirit. I called someone and I said, I want out. I can't do this anymore. I need you to hold me accountable. And fully expecting the reply to be, you know what, I'm too busy, I can't help you. He actually said yes. And then that's when I started my walk. But it was a tough walk because I was empty inside. I was dead to the soul. And then the detox had to happen. Then I really wanted to live. I really wanted to get out of hell. Fast forward a few years, I learned the definition of forgiveness. It's actually exactly the same words that Trevor spoke. Forgiveness is letting go, well, the ones I read, letting go of the story of a different past. To do a little segue, which obviously I haven't healed this one yet, to do a segue to a decision that my uncle made that shifted the course of my life. My grandfather was given the opportunity to buy the golden block of Chinatown when he moved here. My uncle told him that was a bad investment. Now, looking back, none of the money would come to me. But the ripple effect of that one decision, if it actually happened, obviously changed the course of my life. And then looking back, I hated him for it. What would my life be if he didn't want that money to start his own little business, which was moderately successful? But what would have happened? I know what that real estate value is of the golden block of Chinatown. it has more zeros than I have in my bank account, and I have to go like 5 digits in to put the decimal point to hit that. But I held all this hatred inside of me, and I really had to let it go. I had to let it out, and I didn't understand how. I was given the definition of forgiveness, and everything started changing. But the question that I needed, that I should pose to you, that you should ask, because I ask myself all the time, how the hell did I end up at that workshop to begin with? I look at it as pure fluke. I tell my coach that it's coincidence that I end up there. She hates that word. She goes, there's nothing like coincidence. You wanted out, and you listened. So the question that I pose to you is, what happens when you don't listen? And I invite Jill Prescott up to share her story.
My name is Jeevan Bath. Suki Bath has been selling quality pre-owned vehicles for 37 years. All of our vehicles come with a certified inspection report, and history reports are available for all vehicles. All of our sales staff is fully licensed. Visit sukibathmotors.com today.
Foodie World has 75,000 square feet of imported and domestic products, with a large selection dedicated to our Filipino kababayans. With an in-house butcher, variety of seafood, and produce from around the globe. Open every day until midnight. Foodie World, 1 block east of Number 3 Road off Sea Island Way in Richmond. Open 7 days a week, Richmond Honda showcases a variety of certified previously owned vehicles. Inside are the newest Honda trucks, sedans, SUVs, and crossovers. The parts and service department features a drive-up, drop-off along the side of the building at Richmond Honda, celebrating 33 years inside the Richmond Auto Mall.
So now that you've got to experience this space that I'm creating, and if you got a glimmer of light or a bit of courage that you yourself would like to take this stage, you can apply to speak at www.mystorymondays.com, and there's a little link that says apply to speak. Send it in and we'll get you on stage.
Thank you. It's 2012, and I'm a finance manager in the automotive industry. I'm in my 20th year. I don't like what I do anymore. My life isn't happy and fulfilled any longer. So at the same time as I'm a finance manager in the car business, I'm also in an intense leadership training program. Now, this leadership training program would have me go 1 weekend, 1 month to New York, and 1 weekend of another month to San Francisco. Well, this particular weekend was going to be the very first time I went to New York. Talk about excited. We left the night before so we could arrive the day before the conference. And we get there in the morning and get settled in. And of course, I'm going to go shopping. It's New York. So I head out for the day. And the city, has anybody been to New York? Isn't it friggin' unbelievable? It is such a vibrant, exciting city to be in. It feels great. And I got some really great deals. So there was that. So I went back to the hotel room, got a really great night's sleep, and I went to the conference the next morning. I walk into the room, and there's, maybe 250 people altogether. And I was very excited for this. I was seeing some people that I didn't get to see very often again, and the energy in the room was just alive. So I made my way to my seat with a friend of mine that I had traveled with, and we were getting ourselves all organized, putting my stuff away and hanging up my purse on the side of the chair. And I turned to him and I said, "Oh my God, I am so excited to be back in San Francisco. I'm going to the wharf for lunch. Are you going to come with me?" And he looked over and he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "You know we're in New York, right?" And I'm like, "Okay." And he turns back to his friend, and I'm thinking the whole time, like, I don't know what's the matter with him, but this is definitely San Francisco. And I'm going to the wharf at lunch. And I stood there for a minute, and then I started to feel a heat. It started at the bottom of my feet and rose up my body. And I started to get dizzy So I sat down. And I put my hands on my forehead and my head between my knees because I thought I was going to pass out. And then everything went blank. I had no idea where I was. It took 2 or 3 minutes for this to pass. And I sat up straight again, and I looked around the room, and I realized that actually, yes, I was in New York. I'd had no idea. With tears in my eyes, I turned to my friend and I said, something is seriously wrong. But that event was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. You see, I'd had other things happening before I got there for a few months before. I was having out-of-body experiences. I was getting lost in my own neighborhood. I would leave work to drive home, and I would have to pull over to the side of the road because I had no idea where I was. And I had to sit there for a minute to sort myself out, and then I would realize I was maybe 2 or 3 blocks from my own house. I would go to read something, a book or a sign, and the words would be all jumbled. And it would take a minute for them to clear themselves up. So when I got back from New York, and at that point, I really was just putting it up to stress. My job was extremely intense. I was being bullied at work by one of the business managers I was working with. My marriage had broken down. I had financial problems. So I thought that's all it was until New York. And when I came back, I made an appointment with my doctor. During the first appointment with her, I explained to her what had happened, and she started doing cognitive testing. Alzheimer's and dementia run in my family, and I was scared that perhaps I had early onset Alzheimer's. That was not it. So she sent me for an MRI, a brain scan. Has anybody had one of those before? You have. That in itself is a little freaky, right? So I had the brain scan. A couple days later, I got called back into the office because the results were in. And I sat at the table with her, looking at a computer screen with an image of my brain on it. And all over my brain were little white dots. And she said, Jill, those dots, those are brain lesions. And then she put her hand on mine and she said, I don't know for sure, but it looks like it might be MS. I have no idea what she said after that. My brain went to, you've just been handed your death sentence. It's going to be long and slow and painful. I left that room in shock. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn. This was certainly not the response I thought was going to happen when I went in her office that day. The following day, I found out that it wasn't MS, but they also had no idea what it was. So, of course, more tests, blood tests, cognitive tests, all of that stuff. They had no idea, and so I started doing my own research. One day I was in my kitchen with a girlfriend of mine when all of this was going down, not long after that initial conversation. And I was cooking her dinner. I'm standing at the counter chopping vegetables, and I looked at her and I said, Christine, it's happening. She said, what? I said, I'm having an out-of-body experience right now. And she said, what's that? And I said, well, basically what's happening right now is I can see myself chopping vegetables and I can hear myself talking, but I am not in my body. I'm up here somewhere. And then she said something that would change the course of my life. She said, Jill, have you ever heard of a Kundalini awakening? A kunda what? This was like, I had barely dipped my toe into the conversations of spirituality at that point. I had been raised Catholic, rejected the religion for the dogma, but my heart was crying out for something. So I'd started this journey, but that language was brand new to me. Has anybody else heard of a Kundalini awakening? Well, I looked it up. Where do you guys go when you don't know the answer to something? The Google, exactly. We go to the Google. So I went to the Google and I found one of those tests, like 10 ways to tell if you're a psychic. I found 100 symptoms of a Kundalini awakening. And I went down the list, checking all of them off. By the time I got to the bottom, I checked off 99 symptoms, plus bonus brain lesions. This was definitely a Kundalini awakening. So, for those of you that don't know what it is, and even for those of you that do, I'm going to give you my version of it. When we are walking through our life, and we are doing things that are not truly what we're meant to do in this life, because I believe we have an agreement before we get here, what it is that we're going to show up as on the planet. And when we're not paying attention, the universe will start to give us signs. Oftentimes it starts with a little tap on the shoulder, and then maybe it'll shake you a little, and then eventually it throws you on the ground. So my little tap on the shoulder, and there were several of them, this is how it goes. One of them was, I had went to the same psychic several times throughout the year, randomly. I would walk into a shopping mall and she would happen to be there. None of it was planned. She never knew who I was from one time to the next. It happened 4 different times. But every time she said some version of this. What I hear, Jill, is they want to know when you're going to wake up and start doing what you said you were going to do when you got here. I mean, a little strange for someone who didn't really get into those things at that time, who didn't really know anything about that, but still there was something about it. And I ignored it. The more of the shake that would happen, one of the shakes that happened, was when I was just before having these experiences of these brain lesions in the car business still, and I was being bullied by another business manager. My marriage had broken down. My life was really quite disastrous internally. Externally, it looked great. I had unbelievable shoe collection. But of course, I didn't listen to that either. And as you know, the throwdown was the brain lesions. The conversation about the Kundalini awakening changed my life. I started on another path of healing for myself. I started investigating what else was possible. I took alternative measures. I did ayahuasca journeying, which is a plant medicine. I started dipping much more deeply into the conversations around spirituality and purpose and what are we doing here. Today, I love my life. Those brain lesions, they're gone. They can't explain it. They have no idea why. I don't know why, really. I have no proof of why this happened, other than to say that I chose to walk the path that I was meant to on the planet. I'm going to leave you with this. We all have difficult times in our lives. Consider that those challenges are meant to wake you up. They are opportunities to step into and begin to live the intended purpose that you had when you got here. Thank you.
I invite Trevor Aspen to the stage to share that.
Hello, everybody. Let's see if I can get this. All right. How's everybody doing tonight? My name is Trevor Assman. Yes, that is correct. Assman is my last name. It's more than okay to laugh at it. It's okay. I kept it, so that's kind of my fault. My husband over there, Jesse, he decided not to take my last name. That's okay, too. I was told tonight that, of course, I'm going to be doing my story, and as I was thinking about the different stories in my life, I've had many. Maya Angelou said one day, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. And the greatest stories ever told are of those who never give up. Oh, closer, sorry. There we go. There we go. Is that better? Okay, perfect. Sorry. Tonight, I'm going to be letting go of a nasty secret that I've been keeping for over 40 years.
So now that you've got to experience this space that I'm creating, and if you got a glimmer of light or a bit of courage that you yourself would like to take this stage, you can apply to speak at www.mystorymondays.com, and there's a little link that says apply to speak. Send it in and we'll get you on stage.
Models are on display at Freeway Mazda. New Mazda sedans, crossovers, and SUVs surround the facility, and fully loaded versions occupy the floor of the showroom. At Freeway Mazda, 154th Street and 104 Avenue in Surrey.
Kingsway Sushi is an all-you-can-eat restaurant with a large selection of Japanese and other Asian cuisine. The restaurant is located 5 minutes from Metrotown Centre on the Vancouver side of Boundary and Kingsway.